welcome. It's the Vuelta de Andalucia, and it's about time too, I think, for many of this year's top names. Plenty have come here. Sylvain Chavanel, indeed, with his Direct Energy team, on one of the pro-continental teams, making up 10, indeed, teams from the pro-Conti level. World Tour, of course, also here, and very much welcome, as you are. It's going to be a fascinating race, this one. It's over 5 stages, so it's been slightly extended from the battling days of Froome and Contador last year. Some might say, well, it's slightly diluted this time by, but when you've got TJ Van Garderen, Philippe Gilbert from BMC Racing, you've got Valverde as well, who's done such a good job. And this is Sammy Sanchez just talking ahead of today's start. Well, Peña Blancas is what he's talking about, the final stage of the day. The final stage, I should say, of the 5. That really is where he thinks this is going to be decided. Many are also saying that the individual time trial, which takes place on stage 4, is really one of those where big time gaps could be thrown up. Movistar are here. This is JJ Lobato. He's got a great option today, he says, when it comes to the sprint, but of course it's all about protecting Alejandro Valverde, a man who's won this on 3 separate occasions, 2012, 13 and 14. There we are. Good build-up, he says, ahead of the Tirreno and not least the Giro. All these preparation races. Southeast, good to see them here as well, with Pippo Pozzato and Manuel Belletti. And there is Valverde. I think many fans have come out just to see him. Well, there are plenty of other big names to conjure with as well. Sky have sent an extraordinarily strong team with Kirienka. Wout Poels is on great form, and Ben Swift, their quick man for today. So rolling out kilometre 0, and it wasn't long before we had a breakaway established at the top of the day. Lovely sunshine, slight breeze, crosswind for much of the day in our run towards Sevilla. A total of 165.2 kilometres in all, and indeed, as you can see, they started to wrestle pretty early on. Wanty Group Gobert, never that far away from the pointy end, and they getting themselves involved. Likewise, Gazprom, who've also sent a man up the road in the rather stout form of Shalanov, Yevgeny Shalanov. He made it up there. In fact, it was he that animated the very top of the day. Wide open roads, plenty of impact from the wind, should it blow up. At 15 Celsius, feeling warmer than that in the protected areas as they go in and out of the little wooded areas, as you can see. They have been busy out there, so has Matt Stevens, who's been keeping tabs on the climbs, of which we have had 3 already, and an intermediate sprint. How are they doing, our breakaway, Matt?
Well, the breakaway at one point, their lead topped out at just 7 minutes 45 seconds, so it really did go out. And all the climbs on today's stage, as you can see there from our map, concentrate in the first half before we then drop down towards a flat finish, which we think should suit the sprinters, as it says there. 43 kilometres to go, but coming out on top in relation to those the 3 climbs, 3 third category climbs, was the 23-year-old Spanish rider Imal Estevez. He will end up in the day, well, the end of the day in the mountains classification. That's the green jersey in this race, and the leader of the intermediate sprint jersey just sat on the back of the group there for Wanty Group Gubert is Jérôme Bonnies, the 28-year-old Belgian. So all of the intermediate sprints and mountains now done, and it's just about these riders trying to hold on to the end. They've still got a pretty healthy lead, 3 minutes and 12 seconds with just on 39 kilometres to go.
Pretty handy grouping, this. Wanty Group Gobert. Well, actually, let's start with the man who's just on the nose at the moment. This is from Euskaltel. This is Imanol Estevez, 23 years of age, neo-pro, was 5th in the Comunidad Madrid, and he was 5th behind our friend Shalimov from Gazprom, who started all this off. We're just dropping in here on number 151. That's Bonnier. That's Jérôme Bonnier, 28 years of age, pretty handy as well. Won the Driven-Koers to Overijse. Yes, you may not have heard of it, but it's a pretty handy event. In fact, he beat Mercato and De Bie, who can sting like one. So yeah, he's up front as well. Morashek of CCC Sprandi Polkovici, you see him as well. Shalanov, we're a little worried about Shalanov, that he was carrying a bit of winter timber, but he seems to have shed it somewhere along the line, and looks lively.
Yeah, we were doing a little bit of digging, as we can do, and let's be honest with you, without being overly insulting to the Russian, who seems to be riding pretty well. He did look like he'd put on a little bit of winter timber, but I must admit, looking at him in the breakaway, I think he's definitely shifted a few kilos ahead of this race, and riding very strongly. And
yeah.
It's Caja Rural, the local team. That's again the only pro-continental team in Spain in that very distinctive green kit. What a combination there, green kit and pink shoes leading the chase, with the Roompots, the Dutch pro-continental team, just behind.
The old legend, pink and green should never be seen, clearly has been put in the bin. It's a fashion thing. So yeah, Cairo Rural, they've got an interest today. Carlos Barbero is a quick man. They've got David Arroyo they were looking after for the GC. You see the orange just behind as well. We're talking Ray Crader. He was good in Valencia, third on stage 5 there, so he's got an option. They don't want to hand it all over, do they, Matt, to Cofidis, who are clearly the out-and-out star performers of at least this first stage, with Bohani and so many others, star-studded quick men, to help him out.
There are some very quick men, and Bohani still yet to get that victory. Was beaten narrowly back in a week ago now in Valencia by Dylan Groenewegen. What a fantastic sprint that was. I think there was only a tyre in it, so some great sprinting. I think perhaps underestimated the power of the rider from the Netherlands, who took a fantastic win for Lotto NL Jumbo. But there, let's look at some of the sprinters we've got. We've already mentioned at the top of the programme, Carlton, Ben Swift. Again, very, very fast finisher. Not maybe as quick as he used to be, but again, is suited to the more harder terrain, and should it come down to a smaller group, could definitely be up in the mix. Danny Bonatti, the veteran, riding for Tinkoff Saxo. JJ Lobato, we saw the interview with him at the head of the programme, riding for Movistar. Remember, he took 2 stages in this race last year, but both those finishes were slightly uphill. Then we've got Tosh van der Sande, a bit of an outsider. Enrico Bataglin for Team Lotto NL Jumbo, and an outsider, David Tanner for Yam Cycling too.
Big day for the sprinters today on this Ruta del Sol here in Andalucia, which is going through some of those who are likely to form part of the big challenge. We know that Bohani is the out-and-out favourite. He's got the likes of Jeffrey Soupé, he's got Cyril Lemoyle, Christophe Laporte and Borut Bozic, who can set out what is an effective lead-out train. Many others have come here to do some climbing tests, their time trialling legs as well. But it will be, we think, one for the quick men. Men like Cohen de Court from Team Giant Alpecin, Dave Tanner could go quickly, the veteran Australian, with Martin Elmiger as well from IM Cycling. Bataglin and Paul Martins as a lead out, and maybe doing swapsies, you never know, depending on their form, for Lotto NL Jumbo in their sort of rather waspish yellow and black. And let's not forget some men who can function very well, especially if it gets rough, and there may well be a rough finish today, with a rather nasty quarter turn on a roundabout. When you have a quarter turn, you have to deal with that roundabout rather quickly, and the phases of the turn can be quite difficult. So it might be one for a hit and hoper like Philippe Gilbert if he manages to get some space. I think that's going to be a very, very tall order for him to actually make that count. 35.9 kilometres to go, 2 minutes and 57 seconds is the gap. It's tumbling, Matt. I think they're done for, these guys.
Yeah, it's been a very hard day again. Some really undulating, difficult terrain. But you can just see the bunch. I wouldn't say let them go, but they opened up the lead. We saw I think one of the most determined attackers was the guy in the rider in blue, Evgeny Shalomov. He attacked solo, got caught, then went again, eventually dragging this group clear. But the lead now really is tumbling, still with 35 kilometres to go. We think there's a nagging side to headwind as well. That is going to fall in favour of the chasing bunch behind. But you never know. We saw, what about that fantastic final stage of Valencia? We thought it was going to be the bunches to have, and again, it didn't happen. So you never know. The breakaway could stay out there, but let's be honest, it's probably weighted not in their favour at the moment.
There we are. Looking at the head of the race, it is our breakaway. We think they're doomed. It looks well and truly in control today. Rather tight camera work, as you can see at the moment. You're not seeing the beautiful countryside that we're heading around at the moment. But we'll take a break and we'll be back with you in a few rounds. 7.5 minutes. That's been trimmed back, as you can see, to 2 minutes and 24. It's likely to be held about that for about the next 12 Ks or so. Nothing too complicated remains. We've had 3 climbs already and an intermediate sprint. So essentially, we have already got our leaders of the climbing category and the intermediate sprints, but it's all down to find out who will be the leader of this race by the end. And we have so many big names as part of this, Matt. It's a real excellent cross-section. 10 World Tour teams, 10 Pro Contis, 4 Continental teams, but some big names have made the trip.
They certainly have. I mean, that's. I mean, we don't have the 2 defending champions, but I don't think that's diminished the race too much at all. Obviously, we had the big Froome Continental battle, but we have an equally fascinating lineup. Team Sky, as ever, have brought a very, very strong roster of riders along, headed by Vasil Kirienka. He wears number 1, but number 3, Walt Poels, comes off the back of an absolutely, well, tremendously dominant performance in the Tour of Valencia. He has got to be one of the favourites too. Then looking at Tinkoff Saxo, very strong as well.
Well, altogether as a Eurosport family, not quite the same on the day itself. We've still got 4 breakaway riders up the road, but as you can see, they are mobbing the road and just trying to get into sprint order. You see that I Am Cycling coming to the fore with their new white shoulders. Dave Tanner and Martin Elmiger are their quick men. It may well be that the veteran Australian Tanner could have some options today. That will always be with the rider, I think, or the proviso that Nasser Bouhanni doesn't function today. He's desperate to get his teeth into a stage victory. It hasn't quite worked out for him just yet. He's already been busy, but with the likes of Bozic, Laporte, Lemoine and Soupé to lead him out, they are the favourites out and out for today. You see Sky with Vasil Kirienka just getting himself and guiding them into a safe-ish place. It's very busy out there as they try and just buy some of this real estate, which is the road on the way in. Not too complicated on the approach, and it's likely to be high speed, Matt.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, it's not too complicated at the moment. Some nice, wide, open roads. And again, elevation. We're riding for the first 50, 60 kilometres along some hilly terrain. It's now dropping, and it's a very, very fast run in to the finish in Sevilla. But I think, interestingly, that the last kilometre is very technical indeed. With about a kilometre to go, just after the kite, they swing a very hard left back on themselves for about 150 metres before a right-handed turn, and then with about 400 metres to go, they have to negotiate a roundabout before the straight finish. So a pretty complicated finish, very technical finish indeed, and that's when we'll see, well, we should see some extremely interesting action as the teams kind of jostle for position to make sure they drop their sprinters off at the opportune moment, and I can assure you this finish today is going to be spectacular.
It is. It's going to be a juicy one, I think. Ben Swift for Sky, Bernati for Tinkoff Saxo, so watch out for the men in yellow. No Froome, of course, or Contador this time by. They really battled out last year. They say it's a more benign course. Well, I'm sure some will argue with that by the time we reach the end of the 5 stages on this slightly extended race. You probably, Norm, used to feeling the 4 stages pass by rather quickly, so it might feel like a bigger challenge to certainly some of those who want to engage with the individual time trial on the penultimate day, and of course the big climbing day up to La Peñas Blancas at the very last. Nothing shy about the pace today. I think everyone's worked their way into the season. At least everyone now, Matt, knows where they are form-wise, and you can either go with it or react against what you see as a deficit, I guess, at this point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few riders that this will be their first race, but as you say correctly, it appears, you know, that lots of riders have been racing up the other side of the world, down under, etc. Some riders, Chris Froome in particular, although he's not here, raced the Sun Tour, so a lot of riders already got, you know, quite a few kilometres in their legs. But it really is a busy time of the year. We've got Oman going on at the moment. We've also got, I think it's today actually, it's the tour of the Vuelta Algarve over in Portugal. There's lots of racing, but this race has been around since 1925 and again has managed to assemble a real stellar cast. It's going to be it's a fascinating race. Last year we saw, the last couple of years actually, that they've had a very short opening time trial, completely rearranged the format of the race, which does, I think, encourage some very, very aggressive racing. Sprinters day today. The gap now just on 2 minutes, and that has been tumbling since we've been on air. Again, very flat stage tomorrow with a 3rd cat climb, maybe a 2nd cat climb near the finish before a drop in, and then the race gets increasingly harder. TT on the penultimate stage before the real humdinger of a finale, the only mountaintop finish on the final stage. But I think this race is teed up to be extremely aggressive. We should get some great unpredictable racing.
Hope so, and it certainly looks that way. Excuse me. Fabio Follin of Trek Sagafredo. I still can't get my head around Sagafredo. Sagifredo is represented. And so are they with Fabio Follin. Bocamolima is their primary choice. I'll be interested to see how Pippo Pizzato goes today for southeast Venezuela. He'll be leading out Manuel Belletti. Don't be surprised if you see the men in grey up towards the fore. La Pajanosas. Rob Hatch is throwing things at the TV as we speak. I think that's how you say it anyway. We're essentially on the outskirts of Sevilla, and so you're going to see a lot of street furniture, which is looks reasonably smoothed out, to be honest, on the approach. These three holding 2 minutes. They'll be allowed to hold exactly that until about another 10k, I reckon. Looking at the wind today, it's sort of lightish. It's been a cross tail that they've been dealing with on the run in, but to be honest, when you get to high buildings, it's not that fast today, and a bit warmer than had been predicted. 15 Celsius, they were saying. Sounds pleasant enough, but honestly, if you set your aircon in your car to 15 Celsius, it's going to feel rather chilly. It is warmer than that, especially when you get protected. So, who's your pick today then, Matt? If we put Buani on a shelf above all others today, I think that's probably fair. Who do you think's also going to be in the mix?
I mean, one rider we haven't, I mean, we talked about Pizzato leading out of Belletti, who's a very, very fast rider. Again, a bit of an outsider for me, and already the Dutch team in the orange, Team Roompot, they've definitely nailed their colours to the mast. I mean, an outsider for me, Raymond Kreder. Also, Christian Sparagli, very fast finisher for Team Dimension Data there in the Premier League white kit. Remember that stage, a scrappy stage win for him last year in a bunch kick. Again, he's the sort of rider that could pull a surprise. If he's not on form, we won't see him, but he could be another rider to conjure with. And also Brian Coquard as well for Direct Energy, another rider we've not mentioned. We could see it going down to a French head-to-head between Coquard and Buhani, and that would be absolutely fascinating. Two diminutive sprinters, but I think Coquard at the moment already got at least one win under his belt this season. Buhani hasn't. This could be fascinating. Yeah,
look forward to it. Why not Adrien Petit as well? They've got options, Direct Energy. That's the team, by the way, with looks like a golden rainbow on a black background. You'll get it if you see it. They've got Sylvain Chavanel with them, and may well be on lead-out duties and possibly having some fun early season, trying to drag his old bones up the mountains. Why not? 26.9 kilometres to go, 2 minutes and 9. Thanks for your company, by the way. If you'd like to join the conversation, it's at Carlton Kirby or at Real Stevens. Any numbers or dashes or dots in there?
I'll give you well, obviously hashtag homocycling as ever for Eurosport. If you want a hashtag Ruta del Sol,
I want to know what yours is.
Oh, I haven't really got a hashtag. If anybody wants to start one, you can, but it's at Real Stevens. But if you fancy a bit of hashtaggery, hashtag 62RDS, that's the official hashtag for the Ruta del Sol. And you can follow them on Twitter for race information at VC Andalucia.
Shame we got a bit of break up there because we were just looking at Gazprom's Yevgeny Shalinov. There he is. We've got a picture of him right now in the blue, number 163. He's shed a bit of weight and probably a good job too. I wasn't actually sure whether he was wearing some kind of torso enhancer underneath his jersey at the top of the season. Anyway, it's all real now, and he's clearly shed a bit. Very, very good junior, by the way, and won the Comunidad Madrid, and he don't do that with some good riders around him. So yeah, he's put the pies to one side, and now he's got eyes on victory. Pies for eyes. Thinking about outsiders, the man I'm going to be really interested to see how he goes is Tom de Vrient. He's only 24 years of age. He's from Wanty Group Gobert, and he was third in the Chirami. Now, Phil Gill was up there, and Philippe Gilbert is also part of the day. But Tom de Vrient is a young man with a great future, and Wanty have kind of picked him up. So, just as a sort of a side glance, keep an eye out for him. And likewise, Bert van Leberg. It's a very common name in Belgium. It's hard to find. 15 of them are actually engaged in cycling. He's only 23, and on the Étoile Bézère, she was fourth on stage 2 with some big names around him. He's on super form for Top Sport Vlaanderen. So the man in white with the yellow and blue accents across the chest, the youngster, he's their chosen sprinter. And so if you see Top Sport and you think, what on earth are they doing? They're working for Bertie. 25k's to go, 2 minutes, and the chase is from Caja Rural. Carlos Barbero, I think, foremost in their thoughts.
Yeah, definitely looking after the interests of Carlos Barbero. And again, this race, very, very important. We've said it before. I mean, Spain only have two teams at the, one team at Vuelta level, Movistar, and then only one team at Pro Continental level. So these Spanish races so important to try and impose themselves. But as you say, Carlos Barbero will be their nominated sprinter. And keep an eye out as well, a bit of a British shout out for Hugh Carthy, number 104, probably one of the tallest riders in the field. His second season with Caja Rural. Look out for him as we move into the hills.
He likes a cheeky break, does our Hugh, and it would be nice to see him in action in the forthcoming days. Didn't make the break today. These guys have hoovered up the mountain points and the intermediate sprint up to others.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, although Sylvain Chavanel has got wonderful Palmares, I think it was, was it 2009, 2010 when he won a couple of stages in the Tour de France, wore the yellow jersey with quite remarkable verve. Of course, former French road champion, French TT champion in the past, a real likeable character. But he is one, I think we don't see the same patrons of the peloton as we used to in the days of Merckx, in the days of Bernardino and Le Monde. But if you were to choose one or two riders, elder statesman of the peloton, I think Sylvain Chavanel, now well into the autumn of his career, does afford a lot of respect. And when he rides up at the bunch and there's a bit of a brush of shoulders and you're a younger rider from a smaller team, you definitely will give riders of that sort of stature that little bit more space.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the imprint of chapeaus all around his head. 20.5 kilometres to go, minute and a half. And so this is as textbook a take as you could possibly get. I'm afraid it's going to be curtains for our breakaway, unless something dramatic happens. Of course, any nudge can, especially when they're battling for road space as they are. Everyone essentially together. It's good to see the bunch functioning so well, but who is going to take it today? We've speculated, and you can see from colour order, they're all very much getting into their team profiles. The blocks of colours are all together. That usual sort of mishmash that you get earlier on in the day is now gone. It's been expunged. They are starting to think further down the road. We've got our approach, Matt. Let's quickly talk then about what the hazards are on the run-in. We've mentioned that roundabout with 600 metres to go. Other than that, they're going to have to take some care.
Well, with 3 kilometres to go, they cross over the Canal de Alfonso XIII. They swing right, and then there's a long straight section along the edge of the city, along the banks. It is. It's a cracking canal. Is the river? Is the Canal Alfonso XIII? One of the finest of the Alfonso canals, I believe. All the way down the banks of the canal, and then with about 800 metres to go, well, 1k to go underneath the flag, the Flamme Rouge, then swing a very, very harsh left, almost back on themselves. Within 150 metres, 200 metres, there's a very sharp right. Then it's bang straight to the finish, but punctuated by a nasty roundabout with about 350 metres to go. That point is going to be absolutely crucial.
It is indeed 350 metres to go, and it's straight over. I was talking about quarter turn earlier on. The quarter turn actually comes with about 650 to go. Then they have a nasty 90 degree, and then that last roundabout. So it's a very technical run-in. As you can see, the teams are all here. Dimension data are here. Mark Cavendish is not. But Christian Bragli gets his chance. He's not a pure sprinter, but if it gets brutal, and it may well on some of those 90-degree turns, I think that's the point, Matt, is that we have, even if you're off a highway such as this, there is one quick way through, and it will be a squeeze on 2 occasions in the last K before we get to that roundabout, which we have to go straight over. And you can count 3 phases to that as well before you're finally unleashed for the line. It may well serve some of those who find a good route through who wouldn't necessarily be top of your sprinting list.
Definitely. I mean, the finishes, I mean, because there are so many teams with interest in this finish, you'll see a real scrap for position, even as far out as 3 kilometres to go, because there's a narrow pinch point as they go over the bridge before that sharp turn right. We're in a very, and there's quite a lot of narrow streets in Seville, and again, the last 2 kilometres, the speed is going to be extremely high, and because of the built-up nature of the running, teams are going to want to get in position sort of with about 4 kilometres to go before that bridge, and of course because of that there could be accidents. Thankfully it's dry, but already we're seeing the now familiar fluoro colours of Southeast moving to the front. We already mentioned Manuel Belletti and Pippo Pozzato, got another 2-year contract with this team. Will we see Pozzato in the mix? I do doubt it. I think if they're looking after anybody, it is going to be the rider wearing number 192, Belletti. But a very technical finish, and it'll be interesting to see when the teams of the sprinters, when the team of Nasser Bouhanni, Cofidis in red, look out for those, hit the front. At what point will it be?
Sylvester Schmidt and Marcin Mrošek. Mrošek is in the break, so I think his legs are probably done for, but Sylvester Schmidt can wrestle with the best of them for CCC's Brandi Pulkovici. They haven't brought their quickest men with them. Southeast, though, have, and Mal Belletti, always good for an option at a moment such as this. They have gone very fluoro, haven't they, the Southeast boys? It was much more sort of tungsten grey last year, and now they've sort of readopted, and maybe the sunshine of Venezuela, not quite sure. No.
Who knows? But
it has to be there for that.
I think one thing you can say about the Southeast kit is, although they've got a Chinese backer, it's classically Italian fluor right there.
It fizzes the eyes. It looks like a laundry accident with a highlight pen. 17.4 Ks to go. This is where we normally would, on an entirely flat stage, get up to the cruising pace on the approach. But as you can see, we've got a rise. It's because we're going over a highway. And so street furniture starts to loom into our minds. You've got to be careful as well here. You see the gravel sort of broken side to the road. If you just get nudged towards that, danger of punctures. Let's just expunge that from our minds, shall we, as they start to cruise in on what looks like a slip road right now. I'm worried about 3 Ks to go and that pinch over the our favourite Alfonso the 13th. Was he Alfonso the Unlucky? Not quite sure, but certainly the 13th. We'll see what that pinch does. Immediately after the bridge, incidentally, we come into a square. Nice little piazza. Or a plaza? Not sure. We'll take a right-hander. There is a little chicane with about 2.2 to go, 2.3, that sort of thing. We'll then head along Bankside before the race really is on for that about 750, isn't it? About the 750 marker, we've got that double phase left-hander. They'll take a 90-degree, then another turn and another turn, all within it as they double back on a hairpin. Then that 90-degree right-hander before that pesky roundabout, which the organisers seem to absolutely love shoving in very, very late on. And as you say, Matt, with about 300 to go, it's not what you want to deal with if you're an out-and-out sprinter.
Well, looking at the run-in and those two, the first very tight left-hander with about 750 to go. From that point onwards, if not before the 1 kilometre to go flag, at that point the bunch will be in one long line. It'll be funneled down the road before they turn right, and then with the roundabout in the middle, it is quite a big roundabout. We're going to see essentially one long line. So position absolutely crucial. You can't leave it late. We're not going to see, it's not a boulevard bunch sprint. They're relatively sheltered from the wind here as well. So the speed's going to be extremely high. Position absolutely vital. You need to go into the first left-hander after the kilometre to go flag in the first 5 or 6 if you're going to have any chance in the sprint. And it'll be interesting to see which team take that left-hander first.
It's going to be amazing how it's revealed to us. Phases of the approach. Well, 15 to go, and you know, Sevilla is not a small place, but as you can see on our particular approach that we're going, it's obviously the thinner part of the city. Yeah, we can see one of the big radio tower hotels on the approach on the horizon already, and they can also, of course, see on this arrow straight piece of road the breakaway. 45 kilometres an hour, that's about right, but we're going to be well into the 60s by the time we are into town, and that's approaching. Another little I guess this will feel like a bit of a shock today. 165.2 Ks total distance for the day. They've been dispatching it rather smartly. There's a lot of keen riders out here, keen to impress, particularly those who have found themselves in new teams as well.
Oh, definitely. But it's Bonnie's on the front at the moment. Just that little bit of a drag. It actually looks I don't know whether they're trying to pull the group clear, trying to add a little bit of impetus. But the danger, if you don't attack, I mean, at this point in the race, still 15 kilometres to go, it's probably in these riders' best interest to work as hard as they can together. But Bonnie's there put in an extremely long turn on the front. But the thing is, when you go as hard as that, and he clearly put himself in the red, if you just saw the look on his face, the sort of gear he was turning, putting a lot of torque through the pedals, often riding like that, rather than saving it for an attack and going clear on your own, because he clearly looks very strong, actually deters the rider from behind, puts the other riders into the red. But again, it does typify the back end of a race when riders are thinking ahead, can we stay in front? And again, with the gap now 1 minute and 7 seconds, and it's Movistar on the front, just in the centre. You can see that arrowhead a navy blue kit, definitely looking after JJ Lobato. 2 stage wins last year, but will this be the sprint to suit him? Normally he likes the tougher sprint with a bit of a drag.
Safety first, BMC. You can see Phil Gill is in the mix here. TJ Van Garderen is their chosen man, and I think that's the point. They are keeping him safe just for the time being. One team that's broken down in terms of its approach is Cofidis. They're just trying to reassemble themselves at the moment. But look at Sky as well, starting to muster on the left-hand side of your picture, so right-hand side of the road. And that is Direct Energy. Brian Cocan, Adrian Petit for the men in black and gold. Minute and 14, a little injection of pace that came, as Matt was saying, with Bonnier, picked up by Mroshek as well. It's just edged out ever so slightly. Mroshek, by the way, who wears the tangerine here. Marcin, he's a young man. He was a trainee with Giacottoli and every other name that they managed to force in there, Gianni Savio. Yes, and he's been picked up by CCC Sprandi. Youthful exuberance, I think, but also in the form of the big man, Shalamov, who's at the back. Of these guys, he is the best sprinter, and he's done well recently in the Comunidad Madrid. If they're dragging him into position and we start to just get out of sight of the chasers, not really much hope of it, but I guess on the approach to the bridge, or the exit to the bridge, there may be a disappearing point. Then, you know, a vanishing point, as it were. He might well just have something left, but the problem for these guys is that they're trying to reassemble themselves with only 13 to go. They've got to be careful they don't run out of road. It's holding at a minute as we approach the 10 marker.
Yeah, we know how much, if the bunch want to turn it on, we know how much they can eat into the lead. But it's interesting, that long, hard turn on the front up that drag of Bonnier's of 1-2 group, Goubert has actually lifted the lead. It's now gone up even more to 1 minute and 20 seconds. It's just on the cusp here, and this Carlton certainly will go down to the wire. I think they could stay away until about 4, 3, even 2 kilometres to go. Very exciting finale we've got.
It's going to be exciting, very. Finally, we're coming into town through some of the little industrial built-up areas on the approach to Sevilla. Beautiful city, by the way. And, yeah, top tapas. I can tell you from personal experience. Minute and 21, then, is the gap. It has that kick that was instilled by Jerome Bonnier. I think quietly Mroshek sort of engaged, but the man who's stalking all 4 of them up front is Shalanov, who went, as we mentioned, well in Madrid. It was absolutely outstanding push by him. Let's see if he manages to get a little bit more space. Minute and 23, they've got to take care. They could throw all this away in terms of stage win, and yet again, it could be a misfire for Bouhanni.
Well, this is very interesting. The lead is creeping up again. As I just started talking there, up to 1 minute and 28 seconds. It does happen, Carlton. Sometimes we look at the stages, you look at cycling sometimes can be formulaic, and generally we know how much power the bunch has, but given the composition of the teams, the smaller teams, of course, in the Grand Tour, when you have 9 riders in each team, there's a lot of firepower in relation to, you know, putting guys on the front to bring things back. Here, there's going to be a little bit more brinkmanship between the teams. Well, especially given how technical the finish is. If you want to take your marked sprinter to the finish, you're going to have to dedicate a lot of energy to the last couple of kilometres. Therefore, you're not necessarily going to have riders who are going to want to take it up from 15, 20 kilometres out. And that's why we're seeing this bit of brinkmanship at the moment. But if they're not careful, this breakaway could stay away. We saw it a couple of years ago in race like the Tour of California. Complete and utter miscalculation by the peloton, letting quite a modest group of riders, all continental riders, go to the finish. It does happen in cycling. Carlton, the gap now just under a minute and a half is actually going up.
It is going up. The rule of thumb is a minute for every 10 Ks means a possibility. And I'm just looking here at the little bit of chit-chat that's going on. There's Jerome Coppel with a little bit of a shimmy. I think the camera bike, actually, frankly, just almost getting itself into a bit of bother. That was for I Am Cycling. Jerome Coppel with thinking about Dave Tanner and Elmiger at the moment. It's Sylvain Chabanel as well, also very much involved. 11K to go, minute 26. And I'm starting to wonder whether the pack have actually misjudged this and are starting to think maybe early season of holding themselves back. It's not where this entire race is going to be won. There's a lot of GC guys here who are probably thinking, well, do you know what, I might as well keep something in the legs today. And maybe that gap is going to be a real one. The camera's panning here, trying to pick them up. Suddenly they've realised alarm bell's going off. It's Southeast that have picked up.
It's a little bit desperation stakes now. It's in Team Sky just moving up at the front. Remember, they've got Ben Swift in their number. They didn't have a sprinter last week in Valencia. They certainly have one in the form of Ben Swift, riding very well at the moment, coming back from a couple of, well, an injury plague last year, although he did win a couple of races. But at the moment, 1 minute and 10, it is starting to tumble down now. You know the magic number, 10 seconds per kilometre is the general rule of thumb in relation to how much time the peloton can eat in to riders in front. But the 4 riders we have all sharing the pacemaking at the moment, extremely high speeds. But again, the last 2Ks, they've lost 20 seconds. So the bunch really has changed pace now. But I've also got some news just hot off the press from the Direct Energy team. Brian Coquard is not in the mix. They're going to be looking after Adrien Petit. Unfortunately, he crashed in training ahead of the start of this race. Big shame for the French team. Perhaps a little bit easier then for Nasser Bouhanni, but he's got some superb sprinters around him. A lot of pressure on the shoulders of that young man.
Yeah, and Shalanov, incidentally, I think I boosted him a bit much. I think he's top 5 in the community Madrid, but had the beating of some very big names, and he is in the break. They've got 1 minute and 2. Close down is happening right now, and it's Team Sky that are on the guide, on the drive, and of course Nico Roche is our man who is pushing off the nose here. Well, Pauls and Vasil Kirienka, some big names to conjure with, both who can go well when it comes to individual time trialing. Ben Swift, though, is their choice for today. What could Dali Benati do for Tinkoff? We haven't mentioned Tosh van der Sande either for Lotto Soudal. We haven't seen much of the men in red. Greipel's team, of course, but Tosh with his chance today.
With Tosh van der Sande, I mean, not somebody you'd ordinarily think of as an out-and-out sprinter, but when he puts his mind to it, look at a couple of stages in the Vuelta last year when there was a reduced bunch of about 60 riders, got a couple of top 3s, top 5s, very fast finisher. Again, it is the sort of finish that he could do well in, but again, this is going to be the sort of finish where you need to have skill on the bike, you need to have a team around you to get your place right, and you also need guts, because this is very, very technical. You need to corner that penultimate corner like it on rails to get into good position. But notice in the middle of the pack there, bit of a blurring between the CCC Sprandi Polkiewicz orange and the red of Cofidis, but keep an eye out for the Cofidis team. They have the most noted sprinter in this field, and the pressure is on his shoulders.
Pressure on everybody, especially as 55 seconds they're holding it out front. Just watch that man in the blue from Gazprom, Shalanov. He can kick, and if he needs to, he will do. What will be the effect on those around him? Somebody's going to possibly reach out and grab for this. 51 seconds, Sky doing most of the work out front, seem happy to do so for the time being. It is Southeast Venezuela in their sort of slight fluoro that are coming to the fore. Interesting to see Rory Sutherland as well. He was the man guiding JJ Lobato of Movistar into position. The veteran Australian telling the camera bike where to go and out of the way. It was, I think, is what he was meaning. 8.3 kilometres to go, still 51 seconds. If that ticker's right, these guys have got a chance.
They certainly have. Just come under a minute. Remember, 30 seconds is when they'll bring the neutral service up. But look at the face of Barney's Avwanti Group Goubert, a real puncher, determined. Great win a couple of years ago in the Arctic race of Norway. He knows the feeling of winning, but he is one of those protagonists, always tries to get in the breakaways. But again, everybody in the move showing the pacemaking. It's now Mrozek moving through, 25 years of age from Poland. This is going to be very exciting. If they do come back, it's going to be around a kilometre to go, Mark Carlton.
I know, and we've told you how technical that is. If they can get to the 750 ahead, they might just have a chance. If they've got a 15-second gap at that point, despite their tired legs of having shared most of the duties up front, I think they're going to have some fun. Cofidis suddenly realised that their bridges are burning here, and they've decided to put a man on the nose and drag themselves and everybody else back into a decent pace. 45 seconds to go, 7.5 to go. Can the breakaway make it? On the front, that's Esteves, the youngster, 23 years of age, neo-pro in that sort of lime green of Euskaltel. There is Shalamov, that is Bunye, the Wanty Group Gobert, very effective young man, 28 years of age, not that young, but won the Driven Kurs to Overijse, beat Mercato and Deby in that race recently, so can go quickly. Morashek in the Tangerine as well, 25 years of age, the young Pole. He is a neo-pro, took him a while to get established, but he's there now after spending some years with Androni and the boys. But Shalanov, for me, of Gazprom, has what it takes in a situation such as this. Here's the camera pan back from the helicopter, and they're going to take a right-hander and disappear from view from the chasers, who can't organise a chase at the moment.
They can't. I mean, we saw Team Team Sky dedicating a couple of troops to the front in the form of Nico Roach and Vasil Kirienka. They have taken a few seconds out, but they've still got a relatively healthy lead. This is, well, the riders in the breakaway will want to get off this main motorway, get into the small, narrower streets. Out of sight, out of mind is the cliche, but it has so much value indeed. Just going over the river, they'll be exposed to the wind a bit. Who's taking it up at the moment? Great bit of footage a minute ago when we saw the speed differential, and now Carlton, the breakaway just swung off that road.
Trek Segafredo and Fabio Follin are doing a bit of chasing. Likewise, I Am Cycling, working for David Tanner, but particularly Martin Elmiger. And these guys are suddenly realizing they've got a real pace about them. If they start cat and mousing and leaning on each other, it will just turn to dust any chance that they've got. 32 seconds, 33, the clock just hovering as everyone else tries to get themselves in order to take that right-hand turn that these guys have already done. Unfortunately for them, this is a straight piece of highway. Here's that big turn I was telling you, the right-hander, and that's why the gap's gone out ever so slightly, heading for 35 seconds as they hoop themselves back in. It's a big, long turn, this one, quite technical, and as a result, it's had that sort of toothpaste squeeze moment about it. They are strung out, and those who are towards the fore who've planned this and timed this well, like Trek, like I Am, they're going to be in a happier place than those who are trapped further behind. And amongst those, I've got to tell you, it's going to be Boani and Cofidis. They've got to reassemble themselves. They've got time to do it, but they're going to have to expend a lot of energy to make the catch with 5.5 to go.
They certainly are. Look at that long boulevard. 29 seconds is the lead. This will be the moment where the team car or the neutral service cars are pulled out of the gap, thus exposing the riders in front as the Folly. Will they be able to close this down? This is going to be nail-bitingly close. A flick of the elbow there from Bonniers. Have they got enough left?
Big question. Find the answer in a moment. 5.2 to go, 30 seconds it's edging out yet again as teams start to reassemble themselves. They've just had a real technical loop, like a slip road, a hooped one, which you often get in this part of the world as they guide you towards the toll booths. Somebody's going to pay a price today, and look at it, panic ensuing further behind. Southwest Venezuela working for Pozzato, but particularly Manuel Balletti, and the alarm bells are going off as well with Lotto Soudal. Tosh van der Sande is getting himself into place. What about BMC? I think they'll save themselves for another day. These guys are still there, 26 to go, 4.8. So in 1800 meters time, a crucial pinch point on a bridge, and then we've got a very technical approach beckoning, and maybe they've misjudged it behind. 23 seconds now.
The fact they've got that really technical section, they go over the bridge, turn right, then they've got a long stretch before the left, right, roundabout before the finish line. Well, because of the technical nature, that is going to fall in favour of the riders in front, but the gap has now tumbled. Cofidis now take it up at the front.
Nobody wants it. They're all talking to each other, trying to get themselves into some form. 21 seconds to go. Danny Bernardi and the Tinkoff boys are there. Cars out of the gap, 23 seconds, 4.3 to go. When we get to 3Ks to go, in fact, in about 400 meters time, they're going to make a turn to go over the Expo 92 Boulevard. That'll be a wide one, I imagine, to bring people to the Expo, but nonetheless, once they go over the bridge, that's where the turns, the twists and turns of this day, and the story will be told. Oh, a big look over the shoulder by Jerome Bonnier, and he's the engine room, or has been, of this push, and I think he's now starting to believe that the catch is to be made. Here's the turn that we're telling you about as they come to go over the river. 3.9 to go, 18 seconds is the gap now, and it finally looks like everybody has decided to work together and at least have a solid punch-up amongst the pack.
They've certainly left it very late indeed. The peloton certainly have their prey in sight, but for a few moments at the very least they'll be out of sight as they go round this roundabout. Bonnier's again on the front. I think the main protagonist, the main engine of this group. Is he going to try and go solo, or is he going to try and encourage the others to work with him?
Shalanov just bridges over to him, tries to get into the gap. Flick of the wrist from Bonnier, says, come on, we can possibly do this. Another big technical turn for the pack, and as you can see, it has that thinning out effect. Those who are quickest out of it get away quickest. The bridge is approaching right now, 400 meters, less than that to go, about 200 meters before they're onto it. Not such a pinch point, but it is as soon as they come off. And look, they will disappear. They will disappear. 14 seconds is what they've got with 3.2 to go. I think their heart, frankly, has been left on the road. It was a good push by them as we come by this rather strange-looking rusty tower. Apparently it's part of the design. Who today has got designs on victory? We're going to find out. Over they go, over the river. They're looking at each other, and this is where
left-hand side will be the Cathedral of Sevilla, and then just after 1 kilometre to go flag, they'll have that half left, right, then the roundabout, and then the finish. 6 seconds, 2.5 kilometres to go. BMC take it up.
Philippe Gilbert wants to be on the front. He wants a piece of the day. He's being guided into position. Alarm bells going off for Cofidis. They're working for Nasser Bouhanni, but they look a bit ragged at the moment. Not a team that functioning at its highest, especially with 4 lead-outs. Here's the gap. It's going to be the take, I'm afraid, with 2.2 to go. So heartbreak for those who are in the break. It's always a difficult thing for riders to be out there as they come past the bull ring, where of course tragedy and drama have been rung large, and last roll of the dice goes from Jerome Bonnier. I think this is only for a combativity award, as the train of southeast Venezuela working for Manuel Baletti hove into view. Phil Gilles still rocking and rolling, and here come Cofidis. They've reassembled themselves at the very, very last. What can they produce for us? 1,800 metres to go. Now, little bit of a shimmy on the approach as we will take this big one, don't forget, in about a K's time, 7:50 out.
It's actually Tinkoff now taking it up at the front with that very, very similar kit. Bit of a glance over the shoulder. Jay McCarthy was there. Look out for Danny Bonatti, the veteran Italian, still remarkably fast. But despite being well into his 30s, who's going to take the first corner to the left? BMC also in the mix, 1.4 to go.
It is Tinkoff with Danny Bonatti. Rafa Micah also helping out on duties here. And guess what? It had to be Movistar, and it had to be Valverde, winner of this race in 2012. 13 and 14, and as we said, Van Leiberger, the top sport bladder, and don't be surprised if you see those boys pop up. He's only 23, but he's on massive form at the moment, going well in the Etoile Bessèges. Here's your big turn, and Top Sport knew all about it. They've guided everybody through it for the time being in around 200 metres, less than that now's time. They're going to take a big right-hander, and then it's that approach to the line. It's much more technical than maybe some of the sprint teams had hoped. And where are all the red of Cofidis, you ask yourself? There's the big right-hander, and still Lerberg, superb push by them, and here come I Am Cycling as well. Martin Elminger, Dave Tanner, what have they got? They're starting to look for a little bit of view. They can't find any for the time being. Big roundabout on the approach, and then they'll open up almost a touch of wheels, and it was Van der Leeuwenberg who got himself into a bit of bother. Finally they revealed to it, and it's eyeballs out for the line, and big absences here. Supe, Bouhanni trying to wrestle through, can't do it. Oh wow!
Danny Bonatti of Tinkoff Saxo, the veteran Italian, looks like he took it on the line. Great ride by Top Sport Flandern.
Unbelievable. Well, we didn't get the long view of the arrival, I'm afraid, for you, but Danny Bonatti had every view that he needed. Out of the roundabout, the double switch. What an absolutely destructive day this was for Nasser Bouhanni. Big shakes of the head for plenty as well. No runoff to play with, and we've got, unfortunately, some tumblers as well. That's not good to see. I think that's Tashome from Stradi, unfortunately, who's taken a bit of a hit onto the deck. Yeah, not much room to play with out there, and in fact, Nazare as well also involved in that collision just at the very end. Not much runoff. Lots of people wanting to take photographs, but the biggest picture, the biggest smile of all, Danny Bonatti from Tinkoff. Boy, oh boy, they got it wrong. They got it very wrong out there. Goodness me, there we are, just a touch of wheels. Too much compression at the end and not enough space to play with. I think space was something that Cofidis wanted more of, and frankly, more pace as well. Tinkoff, the daddies on the day, Danny Bonatti on the line. What happened to Bouhanni? And the big, big pitch with Bozic, Laporte, Lemoine. I saw Soup in there, but no Bouhanni again.
It didn't look as if Bouhanni was there. Here's the slow motion replay. A great riding by Tinkoff Saxo. It looks to me, it looks like it was actually, I think it was Lobato in third on the right-hand side. It is indeed Lobato. It looks like Tinkoff Saxo, by virtue of their wonderful positioning, actually got Manuel Boaro up there in the mix. Couple in the top 4. Here it is again.
Big man, I think that is Van Leeuwenberg, the youngster. Our confirmation, Bonatti takes the day. Bert van Leeuwenberg, I believe it was, for Top Sport Flandern, is on great form, the youngster. He's only 23. Certainly one to watch. You never know when stars of the future are going to reveal themselves to us. That young man for Top Sport Flandern got himself into a great place at the very end. Well, a fun day. It'll be a little bit more benign, you might think, as we head to Cordoba tomorrow. Running of the bulls and the rest of it. That's here's your final couple of curves, and it did for, I'm afraid, some big names out there.
Well, look, I mean, if you just saw the way that Bonatti took that corner, I mean, some great riding by Topsport Vlaanderen, clearly did their homework, but Bonatti came into that final, out of that roundabout with so much pace, he essentially slingshotted himself. Look at the Palmares of Bonatti, a stage winner in all of the Grand Tours, remarkably experienced. A lot of the time he's been used for a lead out in his team. This was his moment of glory over the last couple of years, really come to the fore. An inspirational character, very likeable indeed, experience and speed show today.
Well, looking forward to the next few stages. Sorry for the bumps and bruises today. We've had a few issues. Cordoba, it is 186.3 kilometres. Only a categorised 3 climb along the way, but it comes late, and to our mind, it's possibly more severe than the category 3 suggests. There is quite an elevation to be dealt with tomorrow before a long downhill and then a shortish run for home.
Yeah, it could, again, suit the puncheurs. Again, we'll have a little bit, doing a bit more digging in relation to that climb. It certainly looks, Carlton, looking at the parkour, far more difficult than the third category climb, but we'll soon find out. And of course, there's then a bit of a plateau that contains another couple of nasty uncategorized spikes before a plunge down, and then about a 8-kilometre run into the finish. Could suit the puncheurs, certainly will suit riders like Sylvain Chavanel, who want to attack. But I think tomorrow's course should be pretty aggressive.
Looking forward to it. Just waiting for official results here at the arrival. Been a fascinating day today. There was a moment when I really believed that the break were going to make it. It needed more investment from them. I think they were probably spent after a long day out there.
Yeah, I mean, a great ride. I think the standout rider in that breakaway, although all riders did clearly contribute equally, was Jérôme Boniez. If you want to look at a rider who tried to sort of just give that extra bit of impetus and drive, it was him. But here's the slow motion replay of that crucial roundabout. Lobato is on the inside. Great riding. Bit of a check there, but look at the way the rider in third place now, your stage winner, Danny Bonatti, 35 years of age, slingshotted himself, but not even Lobato, who's a fantastic sprinter, had nothing to do.
Buani, to my mind, messed up on the roundabout. Almost got misguided. It came very, very quickly afterwards. Great day. More to come on this magnificent race. We'll see you at Andalucia tomorrow.